updated odds for the Championship are here, and we've also got the changing odds throughout the months of the year, because of course in pre-season the odds were very different to what they are now, and they've got the odds at the start of the season, and then we've got the current odds as well. So if you're a Championship fan, then do hit subscribe on this channel. It only takes 1 second. If you're a fan of any club in the Championship, then this is the place to be. Do hit that subscribe button, and as well as that, do drop a like if you do go on to enjoy the video. And also as well, I've got a bit of a different background on today. Let me know if you prefer the green screen or if you prefer this background that I've got on right now. I'll be very interested to get your thoughts to see, kind of, as I say, what's best for videos going forward. Of course, this is how the current Championship table looks. Only 4 games have been played, but this has definitely been taken into consideration, you feel, with the latest odds, because teams have definitely gone down in the bookies' estimations, and as well, other teams have gone up as well. Of course, Middlesbrough leading the way early on. Some teams have really impressed so far in terms of the likes of Middlesbrough, West Brom, Stoke City. Coventry has scored a lot of goals as well, and Bristol City have really impressed me as well. So there's some teams that are doing really, really well, and obviously, how long can they keep that going? It remains to be seen, but they've got off to very, very positive starts. And if we just have a look here, it's got the odds of all the teams. It's got 3 separate dates here. It's got the 18th of August, you've got 27th of August, and then as well as that now, you've got the 2nd of September, which was the last updated odds. So of course things are going to change slightly. So going into the season, Ipswich were actually the favourites on 25%. They were very much dead on to win the league as far as most people were concerned, and that's definitely changed as at time's gone on. The longer it's gone on, the less likely chance they've got of Ipswich winning the league, because of course Ipswich are currently sat down in 20th in the league. It's been a difficult start to the season for them, where results haven't been good enough, performances most certainly haven't been good enough. And I'd say in all 4 of the Championship games so far, they've been not at their, well, they've been far from their best in all of them. Some of them have had okay performances. I'd say against Southampton, they weren't too bad, especially in the second half of that game. Against Derby on another day, if they took their chance as well, they probably could have got a win in that game. But as I say, it's still very poor to go 2-1 down against Derby before and the season haven't had a win in the Championship. To be right down at the start of the season, they should be winning that game at home every single day of the week, and to come out with a 106th minute equaliser from Jack Clark from the penalty spot. It's a little bit concerning. You've had 2 games there that have been late penalties. The other one is Birmingham, first game of the season. So Ipswich are the side that are still currently the favourites if you look at it right now, but the odds now have gone a lot slimmer. And if you look at the gap from the start of when they had it, the odds have actually gone down by a hefty amount. And as I say, the difference now is quite a bit close. So Ipswich aren't quite as runaway favourites as what they were at the start of the season. Of course, as we say, it's only 4 matches. Ipswich might just click into gear after the international break. Now they've got a bit of time to work on things, but it hasn't been good enough from Ipswich. As I say, performances are the most concerning thing, as well as, of course, the results. Because you look at other teams as well, of course, you've got the likes of like Leicester City, who maybe haven't performed the best themselves, but they've managed to get themselves points on the board, and they're still they're right up there in terms of being at the top of the league without performing very well, which is a positive sign for Leicester. Because if they think over the international break they're going to work on more stuff, and as well as that, Martin Fuentes can get his ideas across that Leicester side more. They've already got the points on the board as well, which already keeps them in touch with the top of the league, because you don't want to be falling too far behind too soon. Because Ipswich, now you're looking at it, 7 points off second, 9 points off top. Of course, at this stage in the season, it's still very early days, but you don't want to be losing too much ground too early on to be having so much work to do then later on in the season. Which right now, a couple of results that go against Ipswich again in the next few games after the international break, there's serious question marks over that side. Of course, as I say, it's still early days, but there's a reason why they have dropped on them odds right now. And currently, the second favourites right now are actually Coventry City. You can just see their odds skyrocket in terms of going for the title there, at just 8% at one point, and now they're up to 11% after the 27th of August, and now they're up to 14%. So they're getting more and more confident, the bookies are, in Coventry City, who of course have been unbelievable going forward this season. You've got everybody just cooking in that Coventry City. I look at the goal contribution, pretty much the whole team, bar 2 players have at least contributed towards a goal. You got Hadji Wright, who's a top striker in the Championship. He didn't really have his best season last season in terms of his numbers anyway. You still didn't do bad, don't get me wrong. 12 goals in 29 games isn't bad at all. I mean, to be fair, it's not even that much different to his record that he had in this first season, but it feels like Hadji Wright, where you feel like he didn't take some of his chances. He definitely felt like he could have definitely done more, Hadji Wright, and that's the kind of potential that this guy really does have. Of course, I mean, I say potential is 27, but I'm saying potential as in, if this guy actually took his chances on a regular basis, you're looking at a striker that can definitely getting towards 20 goals this season. He's already on 4 Championship goals in the first 4 matches, and if he's a player if Coventry can get him firing consistently, which they have done so far this season, that could be that could be your Championship top goal scorer right there, or at least right up there in terms of the Golden Boot. And with the players he's got in behind him, you got Jack Redoni, who's arguably the best player in the league right now. What a player he is, and he had so much interest from other clubs, and it's amazing that Coventry have managed to keep hold of him. And as I say, he's been fantastic so far this season. With then the likes of Mason Clark, who Frank Lampard's really got the best out of since he's been appointed. On that left-hand side, Thomas Asante as well, who offers so much as well. Real good hard worker, and as well as that, he's got 2 goals, 2 assists. He's been incredible. You've got the deep line playmaker who can start them attacks in Matt Grimes, who can control games from deeper. And you got Victor Torp as well, who's just got he's just an unbelievable technical player. We've seen with some of the goals that he scored this season so far. And as well, they got flying fullbacks in Van Evac. They've also got Kessler Hayden as well. And as well, they've got Bobby Thomas at the back. They've also brought in the lad from Ipswich, Wolfenden, as well. So hopefully he can help shore things up for Coventry. Because you'd say the main criticism of Coventry so far has probably been defensively. They've conceded 6 goals in 4 games. And if they can shore up a little bit more defensively, they've got the goals that can hurt any team on any given day. And as I say, I absolutely back that from the bookies as to why they're putting Coventry in second. Now, Southampton have actually dropped off quite a bit. They were initially the second favourites for the league at 18%. They've dropped off slowly now. They're on 14%. And again, that's just kind of down to recent performances. And of course, they've kind of had they've had a very busy transfer window, especially back end of the transfer window, put it that way. Of course, they brought in Finn Azaz. They lost Tyler Diblin. They lost Matthias Fernandes. They lost both of those two. I thought they were going to maybe lose one out of those two, but to lose both is probably a big blow, but they have got a big transfer fee for them players. They've gone back into the market. It's all a bit of an unknown with Southampton, of course, because they've brought in quite a lot of players here. Some players that, I'm not going to lie, I'm not really too aware of, but they brought in the likes of Tom Fellows, who's done very well in the Championship, and Finn Azaz as well. Reslov as well at Brentford as well. They brought in Damien Downs, who hasn't started too great. But as I say, there's a lot of unknowns with Southampton, so that's probably why they have dropped off. But I do think we'll get things right, and things will work out with Southampton. But as I say, performances haven't quite been the best for Southampton so far. They've been a bit of it's been the majority. It has been pretty poor. They had a good first half against Ipswich. Could have walked away with 3 points against Watford, of course, an unbelievable free kick equaliser from Aaron Kunder. Loss against Stoke, and then 2 late goals against Wrexham as their one win this season. It hasn't been too great. It's been a slow start, but as I say, there's been a lot of change at Southampton. I think after the international break, we can really get into the Championship there, and we can really start to judge these teams that have been relegated from the Premier League and thinking, can they come back or not? And then we've got Birmingham City, who have they really rose initially after the start of the season. Then after the last match, they've dropped down to 13%. It's a little bit knee-jerk from the bookies, but 13%. They got Birmingham City in 4th position, who I do think have had a very good start to the season. Obviously, the last game against Leicester was a tough one. Leicester are a top team, and they would be without this points deduction that's looming. I'm sure they'd be right up there in terms of they've got to be top 2. Leicester, you'd say, with the points they've got on the board and with the performances not being the best. You feel like if they can get things right, Martin Cifuentes, Leicester could be right up there without that points deduction. But as I say, the deduction's probably putting them down in the bookies' estimations. We just got to look prior to these 2 games against Port Vale and Leicester. Birmingham have been picking up results, and they arguably could have had more points the game against Ipswich, first game of the season. They could have got more. And the performances in my opinion, have been very good. They've been very solid and very hard to beat defensively. It's been more. The problem has been going forward, taking the chances, creating. Chance creation has been average, but I'd say in terms of actually taking chances, it's been definitely below par. On another day. Another time, Birmingham City could have a lot more goals than 4 this season. So that's got to be the main criticism of Birmingham this season, just the fact they haven't scored enough goals for the chances that they've created. And going forward, it is obviously a very slow build-up possession, which is the way that Chris Davis wants to play. We know that from League One. He's bringing that into the Championship. As I say, I think it's been a decent start. They're a newly promoted club, you've got to remember that. And I do really think that Birmingham will be up there come the end of the season, but there is definitely things that need to be improved on and need to be worked on in that Birmingham City side. And then as well, now in 5th, it's Middlesbrough, who, their odds are they're slowly sneaking their way up, aren't they? At start of the season, at only 6%. They had them very, very low, Middlesbrough, just because, there's so much up in the air. A lot of people obviously had question marks over Rob Edwards, and as well as that, with the transfers, it all seems to be very slow at the start of the window. And it seems to be all coming up pretty well for Middlesbrough right now, who are currently sat pretty at the top of the league, with the only team that's won every single match in the Championship so far this season. And it's easy to forget there's so much quality in this Borough side that we just didn't see quite the best out of under Mark. It's a difficult season for them last season, but as I say, there's so much talent in that squad. Hayden Hackney, Aidan Morris. You've seen the stats with him. His running figures this season are absolutely wild. Tommy Conway I've always rated as a striker. And they have recently, actually, on deadline day, brought in this lad here, David Strelec, who he played against Germany. I mean, I'm sure a lot of Middlesbrough fans have tuned in and have seen what this guy did to Germany, because he's just played against them for Slovakia in a 2-0 win. Picked up a goal and assist and absolutely turned Rudiger inside out. He's got a really good record over at Bratislava. Of course, now it's going to be different coming over to the Championship. But this guy's got goals in Europe. He's 24 years old. He'll be a very interesting player to watch this season. He could be a real handful for Championship defences. And as I say, really exciting signing for Middlesbrough. You didn't think things could get much better with them being sat at the top of the league after 4 matches, but to bring in a striker like that, who's got, obviously we saw, I mean, I watched a bit of that game against Germany and seen what he'd done. He looked unbelievable. Genuinely was the best player on the pitch, which, I mean, Middlesbrough fans can't really have it much better than what's going on, but then they've just got to announce this guy. Like, I mean, it's got even better for them, genuinely. We've kind of just discussed Leicester. I think they've had a really good start in terms of points. 9 points out of a possible 12 isn't too bad. But as I say, performances quite haven't matched the points in my opinion. But decent against Birmingham. I think they obviously kind of had a game plan of where they sit back, play on the counter-attack. And it worked out for them because they got that kind of individual quality Leicester have, which, if they didn't get the points deduction, I'd be putting them probably second in the table, maybe even top of the table in terms of my predictions, because that, as I say, they've got the quality in terms of individual quality with Fatawu. And as I say, there's a lot of quality in that squad, but with that points deduction, it's just enough to kind of put you down in the estimations if they are ever going to get it, whatever's going on with that. Then, of course, you've got some of the teams that started really well that they've got a little bit lower down still. West Brom at 8%, so they've still got pretty good odds there, but they have definitely gone up. I mean, Stoke City, I mean, I know it's like potential to win the league, but I mean, the odds are pretty similar to what they were at the start of the season, which is like, I mean, Stoke have been unbelievable so far this season. They've been very, very impressive. Of course, lost the last match, but other than that, Stoke have been fantastic. And as I say, performance-wise, they've been really, really good as well. Like, they have actually convinced me in terms of performances. Of course, with teams like that, it's still very early days. Very interesting to note with Sheffield United, you know, they've obviously dropped down the estimations. You'd imagine probably at the start of the season, they were maybe 4th or 5th. They had 6% expectations. They've now dropped to just 3%. And as I say, they're already miles off it in terms of, you know, right at the top of the table. So it's always going to be difficult to turn that around, especially with what's going on right now. The fans don't really have much confidence in Ruben Sellers. The players don't seem to have too much confidence in Ruben Sellers. They've brought in some signings now which have definitely addressed areas, and they definitely needed to do that. They were very slow in terms of moving in the transfer market, which has definitely come back to bite them. You've got to feel sorry for Sellers in that sense, but you look at the quality of their side. I mean, they should absolutely be doing better than what they're doing right now. Some interesting signings. I think Ben Mee, of course, so much Premier League experience. Obviously not played much in recent times, but really experienced player, someone they probably need at this given moment. Mark McGuinness, I don't mind him. He's okay. I mean, he struggled at Luton last season. He had, especially at the start of the season with Luton, he did struggle. Big money move, he went into Luton. And, I mean, he is a very talented centre-back, we know that, but as I say, he did get relegated with Luton last season. I still think he'll do a decent job in there, but as I say, I don't think he's top, but I think he's a decent Championship centre-back in my opinion. Obene, I think, is a decent signing if he can stay fit. And as I said, they kind of went mad at the end of the transfer window. Tanganga coming in, Chong coming in as well. I really like the signing of Tanganga. I think that's the top one out of the lot. That's the pick of the bunch. Just because he's got, we know what he's about. We've seen him in the Championship. This guy's one of the best defenders in the Championship and a really good chance. I'm surprised Tanganga actually kind of wanted to go there with the situation that Sheffield United are in. I could have honestly seen him go into maybe a Premier League club, to be honest, as finding his way into a Premier League side very soon. But interesting move for him going to Sheffield United. So as I say, Sheffield United massively dropped off. And then you've got to look down at the bottom here. These are probably the least likely teams to, or the most likely teams that the bookies would have towards the bottom of the table. You've got the likes of Hull City, who are currently sat at the bottom, 0.71%. It's been I mean, Hull weren't too bad at the start of the season, you know, in the game against Oxford, they won 3-2. Picked up a good point as well against Coventry. Just been difficult the last few games. I mean, against Blackburn, it was just a real off day. Blackburn were absolutely on fire. And Bristol City, it's always difficult to go to Bristol City, and the way that they've been this season, they've been really, really impressive. And Bristol City ran out scoring goals for fun. But defensively, Hull, really, you got to look at it there. Other than that game against Coventry, you know, 3-2, 3-2, you quite simply can't compete with that when you're conceding that many goals. So that definitely needs to be addressed at Hull City. 9 goals conceded in the opening 4 games defensively, as I say, hasn't been good enough. Something that they definitely need to be working over the international break and at least improving if they want to remain competitive in this league. Of course, a lot of people do have Hull and did have Hull in their predictions at the start of the season at the bottom of the league. I had Hull towards the bottom. I had them just about staying up. But as I do think they'll be down there. I do think they'll be scrapping at the end of the season. Obviously, it's been difficult with the embargo that they've had. It hasn't helped them out at all. But I still think they have enough in that side to keep themselves. I think Balumi as well, by the way, played in the under-21s game. I think he scored 2 goals. And he might got a goal and assist. And this guy is a serious player. It'd be like a new signing coming back when he's playing for Hull again in the first team, which is a massive positive for them. Then you got Blackburn, who I actually put them in my in the relegation zone in my predictions, which obviously it's still early days. They've not got off to the best. Of course, they had that one game against Hull. I think also they might be losing Matt Target. I might be wrong. I think I've seen rumours of him potentially going out maybe to Turkey, which is interesting. They still have got quality in that state. There's no doubt. We know Tronstad's a very, very good player. Todd Cantwell as well, if he can turn it on, he's a very good player. Of course, they lost Dominic. I'm just worried about Blackburn with the amount of players they've lost in terms of their relegation, in terms of what might happen for them this season. It is a little bit concerning. And the third team that they've got in the relegation zone right now is Charlton. It's interesting they're still at Preston down there, who started the season really, really well and picked up results against some of the big boys this season. Obviously, it's very early days, but Preston have been very impressive, and the signings look to have really worked out for them, especially the wing-backs and Thierry Small, Valentin have been really impressive for Preston, so I'm surprised they've got them that low. But of course, again, you've got to kind of take into consideration it is only 4 matches, and it is a long, old season. But as I say, discussing Charlton, they started off the season pretty well. Obviously, they got the win in the first game of the season, and then was it 0-0 draw against Bristol City? 0-0 draw against Bristol City. Obviously, the 1-0 win, late winner against Watford. Goals have been a problem for Charlton. That's been the main issue for them going forward. Of course, against QPR, against us, they conceded 3. But other than that, they've been decent defensively. And on another day against Leicester, they could have got a result. So I'd say Charlton haven't been too bad. I don't think it's been a bad start to them. But as I say, goals are quite clearly an issue right here in terms of going forward for them. I've signed Charlie Kelman for a big money fee. It hasn't really worked out so far. Of course, it's so early you can't write him off yet. But goals, as I say, could be an issue in that Charlton team. Nathan Jones we know Charlton from last season in League One. Very difficult to play against, very hard to break down, especially in the playoffs, we saw that. And it's obviously very difficult in the Championship when you're up against, as I say, in that game against Leicester on another day, they could have walked away with a win. They could have got at least a draw in that game, but you've got individual quality of Fatawu that you wouldn't get that in League One. In League One, you'd probably get a goal, you'd win the game 1-0, but in the Championship, it's just a completely different ball game when you've got the quality of players and players like Fatawu who are pretty much Premier League level up against you can just pull some out of the bag like that. It's just kind of an awakening for Charlton, just saying that is what the Championship's all about, and if you're not on it, teams can punish you. They got punished by QPR late on in the game as well. In a game that was, for the most part, a pretty even game. I think we just about deserved to win. But again, it was a game for Charlton where it was a fine margin game and they ended up coming out and losing that game where, in League One, they might have been able to scrape through and get themselves a result in that game. As I say, that's just the way the Championship is. It's a very unforgiving league. It's a very harsh league. And that's kind of what Charlton have figured out in terms of, I don't think they've played that bad. I don't think they've been bad in the slightest. Just going forward, they haven't been ruthless enough. And defensively, as in this game here, they conceded 3 goals, and that's what can happen in the Championship at the end of the day. Because no matter who you're playing against, any team in the Championship 1-24, if you're not on it, you'll get punished. So anyway, let me know what you think of that in the comment section down below. Let me know who do you think will be up there come the end of the season. I'd be very interested to get your thoughts. Obviously, Ipswich still the pretty heavy favourites. You say 4% over the rest of the teams, and it's very close between the others. So let me know what you're thinking in terms of relegation, in terms of promotion. I'd be very interested to get your thoughts. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, drop a like down below. Subscribe to the channel as well if you are new around here. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.